The mindset that made Elon Musk. Thinking beyond limits. Have you ever wondered what truly separates the average person from those rare individuals who seem to bend reality itself? Why do most people settle for the safety of routine, while a few decide to chase impossible dreams? Dreams so audacious they almost sound crazy at first. Think about it. When you hear about building rockets to colonize Mars, creating cars that drive themselves, or wiring the human brain directly into machines, your first instinct might be to laugh or doubt. Yet Elon Musk didn't just imagine these things. He acted on them. But here's the real question. What's going on in the mind of someone like Elon Musk? What allows him to attempt things that most people wouldn't even dare to consider? The answer isn't luck, and it isn't even just raw intelligence. It's a mindset, a psychology of thinking beyond limits. You see, ordinary thinkers are bound by invisible walls. These walls are built from fear, doubt, and social conditioning. Most people grow up learning to stay inside these walls because they equate safety with success. Get a stable job, follow the rules, avoid risks. But innovators like Musk operate differently. Their psychology flips the script. They see those same walls not as barriers but as illusions waiting to be broken. Where others see the impossible, they see a challenge worth solving. Take SpaceX, for example. When Musk first announced his vision to make rockets reusable, so they could land back on Earth instead of burning up in the atmosphere, many experts dismissed it as science fiction. NASA engineers and aerospace veterans shook their heads, saying it couldn't be done. And for years, Musk's rockets exploded on launch pads and fell into the ocean. But here's where psychology enters the picture. Instead of seeing failure as proof of impossibility, Musk treated each disaster as feedback, as data for the next attempt. This is the mindset of thinking beyond limits. To reframe failure, not as an end, but as a stepping stone. What's even more fascinating is how Musk's brain doesn't just aim at solving one problem. It attacks problems at their root. He uses what psychologists call first principles thinking. Instead of reasoning by analogy, copying what others have done, he breaks down problems to their fundamental truths and rebuilds solutions from scratch. For example, instead of asking, "How much do rockets usually cost?" he asked, "What are the raw materials needed to build a rocket, and why can't we source them cheaper?" That single shift in mindset turned a multi-billion-dollar industry into something he could disrupt. And here's the part most people miss. You don't have to be a billionaire to apply this psychology. Thinking beyond limits is not about the size of your bank account, but the size of your perspective. It means asking bigger questions, daring to challenge how things have always been done, and refusing to let fear or doubt define your path. Musk didn't have a guarantee that Tesla or SpaceX would succeed. In fact, he risked everything and almost lost it all. But the mindset that carried him through was simple. If something is important enough, you try, even if the odds are against you. So the real lesson here is not about worshipping Elon Musk. It's about understanding the psychology that allowed him to go where others never even dared to look. It's about realizing that the limits we think we have are, more often than not, just mental constructs. And if you can break those constructs, you can break free. Because the truth is, thinking beyond limits is not a superpower. It's a choice. A choice to question, a choice to persist, and a choice to imagine a future bigger than your fears. And the moment you begin to see the world not as it is, but as it could be, you start to unlock the same mindset that drives the people who change history. Part 1. The power of thinking in first principles. One of Musk's most famous mental tools is something called first principle thinking. This way of thinking doesn't just accept the world as it is. It questions, breaks apart, and rebuilds from the ground up. Most people rely on what psychologists call reasoning by analogy. In other words, we look at how something has always been done and then copy or slightly improve it. That's how industries often work. They evolve slowly, step by step. But Musk doesn't settle for that. Instead, he asks, what are the fundamental truths here? What is this problem made of at its core? Take rockets, for example. When experts told him that building rockets was too expensive and only government-backed giants like NASA could do it, most people would have nodded and walked away. Musk didn't. Instead, he broke the idea apart. He asked, what are rockets actually made of? Steel, aluminum, titanium, carbon fiber, and a few electronics. When he calculated the cost of those raw materials on the open market, he discovered that they were only a tiny fraction of the price that aerospace companies were charging. That realization, that rockets weren't inherently expensive, but the way they were being built was inefficient, sparked the birth of SpaceX. Musk and his team figured out how to manufacture rockets for far less, disrupting one of the most rigid, exclusive industries in the world. Psychology calls this kind of approach cognitive reframing, the ability to shift the way you view a problem. Instead of being trapped by conventional assumptions, you peel back the layers until you see reality in its simplest form. Studies on problem-solving show that when people reframe challenges, when they stop asking, "Why can't it be done?" and instead ask, "What if we looked at it differently?" they not only generate more creative solutions but also build the persistence to carry them through. This is where first principle thinking becomes more than just a business tool. It becomes a mindset for life. For example, let's say you want to start a business but think, "I don't have enough money." Instead of stopping there, use Musk's approach. Break the problem down. What does starting a business actually require? Do you need an office? Not necessarily. Many billion-dollar companies began in garages or basements. Do you need investors immediately? Not always. Some of the most successful entrepreneurs bootstrap their way forward. When you strip away the assumptions, you often find that the roadblocks you thought were immovable are actually bendable. Even in daily life, this kind of thinking can unlock hidden doors. Maybe you've said to yourself, "I don't have time to work out." But if you break that thought apart, the question becomes, what do I actually need for exercise? Just my body and maybe 10 minutes. Suddenly, the excuse falls apart, and a solution appears. Or maybe you're stuck in a job you don't love, believing you can't leave because of financial security. Reframe it. Ask, what are my actual financial needs? What skills do I already have that can be used in other ways? By dismantling the assumptions, you see options where once you saw walls. This is the genius of Musk's psychology. He doesn't let inherited beliefs or the way things are define what's possible. Instead, he reduces problems to their core components and rebuilds them into something revolutionary. That's how Tesla reimagined not just electric cars, but the entire car industry. It wasn't about asking, how do we make a slightly better electric car than what already exists? It was about asking, what if an electric car could be so powerful, so efficient, and so stylish that people would actually want it more than a gasoline car? That simple reframing shifted the entire narrative around electric vehicles. Now here's the key. You don't have to be Elon Musk to use this. You don't need billions of dollars or a team of engineers. What you need is the courage to ask better questions. Instead of automatically accepting problems at face value, pause and ask yourself, what is this problem really made of? What assumptions am I blindly accepting? That shift alone can take you from feeling stuck to discovering possibilities you never considered. Because the truth is, most limitations in life are not physical. They're psychological. They exist in the way we frame problems. And the moment you learn to break those frames, you stop being limited by the world around you and start shaping the world yourself. Part 2. Growth Mindset over Fixed Mindset. Psychologist Carol Dweck's groundbreaking research revealed one of the most important truths about human potential. The difference between those who plateau and those who thrive often comes down to mindset. People with a fixed mindset believe their abilities are carved in stone, unchangeable, predetermined, and limited. On the other hand, people with a growth mindset believe their intelligence, talents, and skills can expand through effort, learning, and persistence. This small psychological difference creates a massive gap in results over a lifetime. Elon Musk is a living example of the growth mindset in action. Think about it. Musk wasn't born with a degree in aerospace engineering. He didn't grow up surrounded by rocket scientists, nor did he inherit a family business that specialized in spacecraft. In fact, by traditional standards, he was an outsider to the field. But instead of letting that stop him, he embraced a different belief. Knowledge is available to anyone willing to learn it. Musk devoured physics and aerospace textbooks, spent hours on forums and research papers, and sought out conversations with experts who were already in the field. He turned every unanswered question into a doorway to deeper knowledge. This mindset explains why SpaceX exists today. Where most people would have thought, I'm not qualified to build rockets, so why even try? Musk thought, I can learn what I need to know. I just need to put in the work. That is the very definition of a growth mindset. Seeing possibility where others see permanent limits. But Musk's story also reveals another dimension of the growth mindset. His relationship with failure. Most people fear failure because they see it as a reflection of their ability or worth. With a fixed mindset, failure feels like proof that you're not good enough, and so people avoid risks, challenges, or anything that could expose them. But Musk flips the script entirely. To him, failure isn't proof of weakness. It's proof that progress is happening. He's famously said, "Failure is an option here. If things are not failing, you're not innovating enough." This perspective is rare but incredibly powerful. Psychologically, this works because of something neuroscientists call neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself with every experience. Each time you make a mistake and reflect on it, your brain strengthens new pathways, making you smarter and more capable the next time. Failure, when reframed as feedback, becomes fuel for growth. Musk has internalized this truth so deeply that instead of avoiding failure, he seeks it out. Every test rocket that exploded wasn't just a setback, it was a data point. Every failed launch was another piece of information that brought him closer to eventual success. And here's where this becomes personal for you. You may not be building rockets, but you face challenges every single day. Maybe you're struggling to learn a new skill, start a business, or change your habits. The temptation is to quit after the first few failures, to say, maybe this just isn't for me. But that's the fixed mindset talking. The growth mindset asks a different question. What can I learn from this? How can I use this setback to get better? That tiny shift in your self-talk can make the difference between quitting after a few tries and eventually mastering something that once felt impossible. Think of it this way. When a baby is learning to walk, they fall hundreds of times. Yet no one says, walking just isn't for you. They keep trying, adjusting, and learning until one day, they succeed. That persistence, the willingness to stumble without giving up, is exactly what Musk applied to rocket science, electric cars, and even artificial intelligence. So the next time you fail an exam, mess up a project, or feel like you're hitting a wall, stop and remind yourself. This is not the end, it's just a lesson. Reframe your inner voice from, I can't, to, I can't yet. Because the difference between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset is often just one word, yet. By practicing this, you don't just change how you approach challenges. You literally rewire your brain to become more resilient, more creative, and more capable over time. And that's the secret Musk unlocked. When you live with a growth mindset, you stop being limited by what you know today and start becoming limitless in what you can learn tomorrow. Part 3. The Science of Grit. Psychologist Angela Duckworth's research shattered one of the most deeply held myths about success, that it belongs only to the most talented or the most intelligent. In her landmark studies, she found that IQ and raw ability could give someone a quick head start, but when it came to long-term success, they weren't the strongest predictors. The real deciding factor was grit, the relentless combination of passion and perseverance for long-term goals. And Elon Musk is perhaps one of the clearest modern-day examples of this principle in action. Think about SpaceX. In the early 2000s, building a private rocket company wasn't just risky, it was seen as absurd. Governments with near-infinite resources had struggled for decades to master spaceflight, and here was one man, an entrepreneur, saying he could do it better. His first 3 rocket launches ended in fiery explosions. Each failure wasn't just an emotional blow. It was financial devastation. Every launch cost tens of millions of dollars. By the 3rd failure, SpaceX was teetering on the edge of bankruptcy, employees were exhausted, critics mocked him, and the media declared the company dead. Most people would have quit. Most would have said, enough is enough. But Musk didn't. He emptied the last of his fortune into one final attempt, even though it meant risking total ruin. That 4th rocket, Falcon 1, finally reached orbit. That single moment changed everything. It led to a NASA contract worth billions, which not only saved the company but propelled SpaceX into becoming one of the most innovative aerospace organizations in history. This story is more than business. It's psychology. Musk's grit wasn't just stubbornness. It was an unshakable commitment to a vision larger than himself, making humanity a spacefaring species. That vision gave him resilience that money or talent alone couldn't buy. Psychologists have found that grit is not fixed, you can develop it. The key lies in connecting your goals to something meaningful. If your motivation is just money or comfort, you'll burn out quickly when obstacles appear. But if your goal ties to a deep purpose, something that matters beyond yourself, you'll find the strength to push forward when everything seems lost. Elon Musk's grit shows us a universal truth. Success is rarely about avoiding failure. It's about being willing to face failure repeatedly and still keep moving forward. Part 4. Delayed gratification and future thinking. Now let's move to another powerful psychological principle that explains Musk's mindset: delayed gratification. In the 1970s, psychologists at Stanford ran a famous study known as the marshmallow test. A child was placed in a room with a marshmallow on the table. The child could eat it immediately, or they could wait a little while. And if they waited, they would get 2 marshmallows instead of 1. Follow-up studies decades later showed something fascinating. The kids who managed to wait, who resisted the temptation for instant pleasure, went on to achieve higher levels of success in education, health, and careers. Elon Musk embodies this principle of delayed gratification, but on a much grander scale. While most people spend their wealth on luxury homes, yachts, or personal comfort, Musk reinvests nearly everything he earns back into long-term projects. Instead of securing comfort for himself, he risks his fortune to build things that might not succeed for decades, like colonizing Mars, building a renewable energy infrastructure, or developing safe artificial intelligence. This way of thinking is called future orientation, the ability to plan for and commit to long-term goals, even when the rewards are uncertain and far away. It requires resisting the brain's natural pull toward instant gratification. Our minds evolved for survival in environments where immediate rewards, like food or safety, were critical. That's why waiting for distant, abstract rewards feels so difficult. Yet, those who learn to resist short-term temptations gain a huge advantage in shaping their futures. Musk is constantly playing the long game. He doesn't ask, "What will make me comfortable right now?" He asks, "What will move humanity forward in the next 20, 50, or 100 years?" That mindset makes him willing to endure stress, criticism, and risk in the present, because he's focused on the payoff that lies far ahead. And here's the takeaway. You don't have to build rockets to practice future-oriented thinking. You can apply it in your own life by choosing to invest in learning a new skill instead of watching another hour of TV, saving money instead of spending it immediately, or working on your health instead of giving in to short-term indulgence. Every small act of delayed gratification rewires your brain to become more patient, more resilient, and more powerful over time. Musk's story shows us that the people who resist the pull of immediate comfort and play the long game are the ones who reshape not just their lives, but the future of the world. Part 5. Risk-taking and the psychology of fear. Most people avoid risk because the brain is hardwired for safety. Deep in our evolution, our ancestors who took reckless risks often didn't survive long enough to pass on their genes. That's why psychologists call it loss aversion. The pain of losing something is psychologically about twice as powerful as the joy of gaining it. Think about it. Losing $100 hurts much more than the happiness you'd feel gaining $100. This survival instinct still drives much of our modern decision-making. But here's where Elon Musk is different. He has retrained his brain to lean into risk instead of running from it. When he sold PayPal and walked away with enough money to live comfortably for the rest of his life, most people would have chosen safety. They would have bought mansions, retired early, or enjoyed luxury without worry. But Musk saw something else. An opportunity to change the future of humanity. He didn't hoard his wealth. He poured nearly every dollar into Tesla and SpaceX. At one point, he had invested so much that he had to borrow money just to pay his rent. To most people that sounds insane. To Musk it was necessary. Because for him, safety wasn't the goal. Impact was. From a neuroscience perspective, this kind of decision-making highlights something powerful. Courage is not the absence of fear, it's the decision to act despite fear. The amygdala, the brain's fear center, activates whenever we face risk. But with repeated exposure, the brain learns to regulate that fear. This is called fear conditioning. In simpler terms, the more often you step into risk, the less terrifying it becomes. Musk's extreme version of this, betting billions on companies that experts said would fail, shows just how far the brain can adapt when you tie risk to a mission larger than yourself. You don't need to gamble your fortune to practice this. Risk-taking is a muscle you can build. Start small. Speak up in that meeting when you'd normally stay silent. Share your creative idea instead of hiding it. Take the leap to start that side project you've been overthinking. Every time you face fear, your brain rewires. What once felt terrifying begins to feel possible. This process is called neuroplasticity. Your brain physically adapts to new challenges, creating stronger pathways for courage and action. Musk's extreme risk-taking may not be for everyone, but the lesson underneath is universal. If you always choose comfort, you will never discover your true capacity. Dreams don't live in safety zones. They live in the space where fear meets action. And if you can step into that space, even in small ways, you'll find yourself building a future that comfort alone could never give you. Part 6. Resilience. Bouncing back from setbacks. Elon Musk's journey is proof that greatness is never a straight line. For every success story we hear about, there are countless setbacks, failures, and moments of near collapse. Musk has faced rockets exploding mid-air, Tesla vehicles catching fire, production deadlines missed, lawsuits that threatened to crush his companies, and waves of public criticism. At one point, both Tesla and SpaceX were on the verge of bankruptcy, and the world was ready to label him a failure. But what did he do? He kept going. Psychology defines resilience as the ability to not only bounce back from adversity but to emerge stronger. It's not about avoiding pain or pretending it doesn't exist. It's about transforming it into fuel for growth. Studies show that resilient people share a unique mindset. They don't see failure as permanent, they see it as feedback. Musk embodies this principle. He once said, "If something is important enough, you should try, even if the probable outcome is failure." This is a radical way of thinking because most of us let failure define us. We fail once, and our brain wires it as proof that we're not good enough. But resilient people, like Musk, reframe failure. Each failed rocket was not an end, but a step closer to success. Each obstacle was a teacher. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" Musk asked, "What can I learn from this to improve next time?" This shift in perspective transforms failure from something that paralyzes you into something that propels you forward. Resilience is built the same way muscles are built, through stress and recovery. Every time you face difficulty, your psychological muscles grow. But only if you choose to keep moving forward. Avoiding hardship weakens you. Embracing it strengthens you. Musk's resilience is extreme, but the psychology behind it applies to everyone. Whether you're facing rejection, financial struggles, or personal setbacks, resilience is about refusing to let the story end there. It's about writing the next chapter, even when the world thinks the book is over. And here's the deeper truth. Resilience isn't just about surviving hard times. It's about finding meaning in them. Psychologists like Viktor Frankl, who survived the horrors of concentration camps, discovered that people who endure suffering with a sense of purpose emerge far stronger than those who don't. Musk's purpose, the drive to make humanity a multiplanetary species, gives his resilience its power. For him, giving up isn't just personal failure. It would mean abandoning humanity's future. That level of purpose turns setbacks into stepping stones. This mindset is what makes someone unstoppable. Not because they never fail, but because no failure is strong enough to make them quit.